Welcome to the Storytelling with Data podcast, where listeners around the world learn to be better storytellers and presenters. We'll cover a wide range of topics that will help you effectively show and tell your data stories. So get ready to separate yourself from the mess of 3D exploding pie charts and deliver knockout presentations. And with that, here's Alli.
How do you get someone to care about your data before they know anything about the topic? Riley Martin is the founder of Sportsball, a creative studio that turns data into hand-drawn visual stories that make sports understandable and genuinely exciting for everyone. Riley is based in San Francisco, California, and has a background in data analysis, and he first started creating these stories to help his wife appreciate the sports that he loved. What began as a way to make hockey more accessible eventually grew into Sportsball, where he and his wife now help brands and audiences discover the stories hidden inside sports data. I actually discovered Sportsball on Instagram during the Winter Olympics when Ilya Malinin, the figure skater from my area, was competing in the Olympics. And my husband and I were following him so closely. And I found a post from Riley where he did a hand-drawn infographic explaining how figure skating is scored using Malinin's routine as the example. And within seconds, I finally understood why commentators were so excited about his performance, and I immediately sent it to my husband. And it got me thinking, how often do we have an important insight but struggle to help other people see why it matters? How do we bridge that gap between what we know and what our audience cares about? Well, in this episode, Riley shares how he earns curiosity before showing the data, why he always assumes his audience knows nothing about the topic, and how he translates complex analysis into simple visuals. Plus, why understanding your audience is often more important than the visualization itself. We talk about his creative process, the surprising appeal of hand-drawn graphics, and where he sees AI fitting into the future of data storytelling. First, I want to let you know that we have a public workshop coming up August 20th, 2026. If you've ever found yourself thinking, I know this insight is important, I just can't get other people to see why, this workshop is a great next step. In this live, virtual 4-hour session on August 20th, we'll share the same practical framework we've taught to thousands of professionals to help them create graphs and presentations that connect with their audience and inspire action. We'll have real examples and hands-on practice, and you'll leave with techniques you can start using right away. And we only offer a handful of public workshops each year, so if you've been meaning to join one, this is a great opportunity. Use the code PODCAST10 for 10% off. I'll drop a link in the show notes so you can register today. Okay, now back to the show. Here's Riley sharing why he started Sportsball.
The basis was education in sports could create more enjoyment if someone just knew a little bit more about the basics. So idea was just to create educational content, help people understand it better, help them engage with it with their significant other better. And I'm no good at actual animation on the computer. I was trying to do these projects quick. And so, especially in the sports world and the news ecosystem, it's like, if you're 2 days late, might as well not post anything. And so I was trying to create animated videos about this stuff with my data analysis. And I was like, I can't do this nearly fast enough. And so I was like, what if I just drew out what I'm planning and took a video of that instead? And that's what ended up catching fire, and I've doubled down on that sense, and that's Sportsball essentially now.
Yeah, so the videos, if you haven't seen them, you are drawing them, and it's kind of time-lapse. So you're drawing it faster than real time, and you are narrating over it. So you're able to tell the story as you are drawing it. And what I found particularly interesting is that you are able to dive into the nuance and make sure people understand why this matters. So specifically the one with figure skating, you illustrated, here are the different types of jumps, but then you showed the range of the scores, what you can possibly get for this kind of jump. And then you plotted Ilya's jumps, and it was just so obvious. Oh, that's why he's such a big deal. And that's why people are so excited about it, because all these jumps, they have such a wide range, but he's hitting such a high score on ollies, and that's super unique. So I was able to really quickly see why this mattered. When you know those nuances, it makes it so that you can appreciate it a little bit more.
Every video I do, I try to come in with the fact that maybe the assumed knowledge for the viewer is zero. If I started that video by saying, here's how figure skating judging works, that's still leaving out people that don't know why they should care about that. And so
Right.
I try to keep it very, very high level and then slowly get down to the depth that was a pretty complicated topic. But starting with saying, you're going to be seeing a lot of figure skating these Winter Olympics. They do two different runs. One of them has this many jumps. The other has this many jumps. Here's how jumps look different. And then finally get to the different jumps have different scores. And here's the complicated scoring structure. So it's slowly easing into a complicated topic versus here's what the grade of execution means in figure skating is not exactly a approachable topic if I were to start it with that.
Yeah, I probably would have scrolled past that, even though I was watching figure skating at the time, but it probably would have been like, I like watching them skate. What do I care really about that? I'll just see the number at the end.
Yeah, the challenge is getting people into the meat of that story that I'm trying to tell. It's like more difficult than the data visualization for me is how do I package that in a way that makes people at least stay for a little while to where I can hook them and make them care. And then finally, once I get to the trends in the story, hopefully that they understand the context behind why we're even talking about that. But that's a lot of the difficult part is the upfront story.
Yeah, that's what I would call the invisible work of data storytelling, the creating the story, hooking people, meeting them where they're at, and then bringing them into the nuance and context. That is the invisible work. You earned the curiosity. It's something that it's kind of hard to teach, though, don't you think?
It is. Building for a persona has been really, really helpful. And I did this at work too, but building in your mind an archetype of who is going to be viewing this. And this happens at work all the time. It's like, what's the assumed knowledge you're talking to your CEO or CRO or whatever? Like, what do they know about this topic beforehand? If you go in with the depth of detail that they don't know or care about, it's like kind of a moot point. And so working with the person that you're assuming their knowledge level and then like how you can get them to your level quickly, really. You
jump in, show them the screenshot of the dashboard you're looking at all day. They're like, I don't know what that is.
Exactly.
And I don't care.
Exactly.
Tell me how that affects what I'm doing day to day.
Yeah, totally. And just figuring out what the consumer cares about or wants to know or does know already is really the meat of what we do.
Can we talk a little bit about the workflow? So how you actually put together the story. So when you're starting a new project, how do you decide on the topic? We could, maybe if you want to use the Ilya Melanin one, or maybe this current NFL one as a example. How did that kind of come to fruition?
Yeah, totally. Both those projects are on the different sides of the spectrum. So for the Olympics one, we got a DM from US Figure Skating, who they are the organization above Ilya and Alyssa Liu, and we're like, hey, we want to do something on how figure skating works.
Was it that general too? Like just something how figure skating works, or did they already have the idea of specifically the judging portion?
It's more so on the something how figure skating works. That project specifically, like 90-minute call. Here's how long a short program is. Here's what makes up a free skate. Here's the 6 different types of jumps. And I'm kind of keeping track of what piques my curiosity as someone who doesn't know much about it. And then I assume that will pique other people's curiosity too. Noting where I get excited about learning about something and trying to convey that to my audience as well.
As you're trying to figure out, hey, is this an interesting tidbit? Are you testing it on Claire, being like, hey, I'm kind of thinking about this angle. Is that interesting to you? What questions would you have? Do you test it?
Yeah, it's literally that. I'll be like, hey, what do you know about the NFL Combine? This morning she was like, what is that? I'm like, great, that's
perfect.
Great.
Good to know.
I'll explain a little tidbit of it and then see where she brings the conversation. And like, it's such a good litmus test for where I need to identify those pockets of information. And like the things that casual fans are curious about are so much different than what a super fan is curious about in sports. NFL Combine is a great example, actually, because if you're a big football fan and your team needs a offensive tackle, like you care a lot about the shuttle run speed of the top 5 prospects coming from Iowa. And that's so much different than what the casual fan knows or cares about. So it's a fun back and forth of what do you care about? What do you care about? And then finding that happy path.
Do you find yourself trying to go more for the casual fan and also sprinkling in things for the people who actually really know a lot about it? Or are you just, hey, if someone who really knows a lot about it enjoys this video just because it's the topic that they enjoy, that's great. But I'm really just going for the casual fan to learn more about it.
Yeah, more so on the latter. It's funny. I thought early on that this stuff would be not exclusionary to super fans, but they wouldn't care and be like, yeah, of course this is the case. But I have found that the type of content and the fact that there's so many numbers and charts and visuals and analysis, even if it's on data that's not so derived and so deep, but the super fans do like it and they do enjoy having a canvas for the things that they like to talk about. And they share it because if they talk about the Browns every week for 8 months of the year and all their friends are like, I don't care about this. And then they see a video come out from Sportsball and Miles Garrett and why what he's doing is so impressive. They're going to share that because they're like, finally, someone can explain simply what I care about.
This is what I've been trying to tell you.
Yeah, I'm not even kidding. That's probably most of our
I can see
fandom.
that.
And it really happens a lot in the non-traditional sports.
Yeah, it seems like you are putting yourself at the center of the Venn diagram of all these tiny little sports niches. And the overlap is these really interesting nuances about the sport. And it's bringing more people in it. But the people who are super fans for that particular sport are just drawn like a moth to a flame. So let's say you have figured out the script, you know which charts you're going to use. I'm curious what tools you use for when you're exploring the data.
Use a lot of Flourish, like just to get the shape of it and see what the trends and really core insights are. And then I get to the drawing board and use a lot of pen and paper just to find different shapes and different ways to display things. A lot of them are basic line charts, bar charts, and time series stuff and proportional stuff. And that's not crazy, but finding the way to make it shaped better for the paper and using that as a forcing function. And this is a chart that has a big hockey stick curve, almost like shaping that around imagery and having something in there. So I do a lot of iPad work and picking and placing stuff, almost like a scrapbook. And here's where this chart could go. And then I could pull it and stretch it and be like, oh, could that actually fit here if I made it look like this? There's a really good example from the Olympics, the hockey one I did. I knew I wanted to draw like a isometric version of a hockey rink. And then the way I shaped the data perfectly went around the rink just because I knew the shape of the chart would look like that with what the data was actually displaying. So it takes time and just poking around and futzing with it.
So you are using your iPad to maybe just some placeholder images like, yeah, this is going to be a hockey rink. This is where this chart's going to go. And you're moving these pieces around just as an easy way to see if the layout's going to work.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks pretty bad at first, but even just getting the placement right is half the battle. You can treat it like dashboard design, which again, what I was doing before. And there's tons of ways to make that the best it possibly could be.
And then you transfer it to paper. Do you ever have to start over or what is happening there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I try not to. It depends. If we're like working with a client that expects a very high degree of precision, one thing, we'll start over. So like sometimes there's redraws. I've gotten good at like using whiteout for the ones that are just for me.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
I've done on the curling one, actually, I messed up some of the circles and I couldn't white it out because it'd be too obvious. And then I cut out a piece of paper and placed it on top. Almost as like
clever.
in a perfect way.
Like a Band-Aid.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. And so almost like a Frankenstein viz in a way.
You can tell there's very little room for error in the way that it comes out.
It takes 2.5 hours each. So
do they? Okay.
I go really slow. Obviously, it doesn't look like it because I speed it up to 100x speed. But
I was going to say, because each video is what, less than a minute or something ish?
Like less, like 2.5.
2.5 minutes? If it's taking you over 2 hours. Yeah. I know I was reading through some of your comments and people were like, are you tracing these? Or like, how can you be so precise? And I guess it's just that you're just being slow, like super slow.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, you don't see how many times I'm looking back at my reference documents, obviously. And in the post edit, for a lot of my open with imagery now, I have a top big image that introduces the concept. And yeah, it probably takes 40 minutes to just do the opening imagery, but that gets sped up to 7 seconds in the post edit. So just take my time, make sure I'm making mistakes. And then the post edit, I can do a ton of different magic to make it fit the right timing and spacing.
Are you using pen, pencil, and then some colored pencils? Is that right? Do you use other stuff when you're drawing it?
Mostly just that. I have like nice pens now, and nice pencils.
I'm sure people want to know what pens you use. Do you know? Is there a certain brand you like?
We're in the studio right now, so I got the Micron, Sakura Microns
Okay.
are solid. Um, Pentel point liners. And then for the more packed in color, I use the Zebra Click Art.
And sometimes you have bubbles, like proportional bubbles,
Yeah.
and you're calculating the area or the radius of these things and then using your stencils.
It's a bit finger in the air, I would say, on the exact sizing. I mean, normally I'll scope it with a scatter plot with some size factoring in on the digital tools and then just eyeball like how big relatively they are to each other. Like the nice part about what I do is it's almost impossible to audit, which obviously is not a good thing to say for like data. It's all correct, but no one's going to say that the radius of that circle is 5 instead of 4, and that's wrong. It's more so these get bigger over time, and that's the message. And so we try to not miss the forest through the trees. I always had trouble with that at work when I'd be like presenting to executives or something, and there's a big kind of arc of a story that you want to get across with data, and like people get tripped up on one decimal point on like one graph that they see. I'm like, guys, we're missing the point here. Like this is a big topic or a big conversation I'm trying to get through. The way we draw and the fact that it's hand drawn, like it's almost expected that it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And we just only get the trends, only get the messages across.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you have more of that flexibility for your personal projects, but I know some of these are paid collaborations. How did that start? Did you start by reaching out to people or did they reach out to you first?
I'm very lucky to say it's all inbound. I have like a form on my website that links through the Instagram and get a bunch of people reaching out a few times a week at the very least of people that work at a company that might be Fox or might be CBS or might be, Mercedes, and they like go home after work and scroll and then they see a video like ours and they're like, hey, I'm gonna send this to my boss and we're gonna figure out a way to do this. Especially I've found that people who look at decks all day or like get presented to all day and that kind of like VP level seemingly is the perfect customer because like this is just a better version of a deck. And so they get home from work, they see boring decks all day. They get the Sportsball video that's like way more interesting than that, hopefully. And then they go say like, why can't our stuff look like this? And then they have someone reach out to me. And it's a nice little flow, at least currently. When we have a critical mass now of the followership where like things get sent around so much and people then use that to reach out.
Do you think that there was like a follower count where the things started to tilt, where you started to really see a significant increase in inbound?
Yeah, I think it's pretty binary, I would say. I wouldn't give it a single number, but like around 100K is kind of like trust, maybe, is something to say about that, maybe.
Yeah, interesting.
It's more so about if I can string together 3 or 4 really good videos, like that's more of a proof point than followers. Followers these days is kind of, it's a nice metric, but it's probably not so in line with the content quality per se across different social media platforms. But if I can get 1 million views on 5 videos in a row, like that's gonna drive a lot of people my way.
What do you mean? You have just gotten so much attention in such a small amount of time that you see an uptick in inquiries?
Yeah, I'd say so. If I just think of the actual pattern of how I use social media and send stuff to my friends, like over the Olympics is a great example. I did one thing every 2 days. And if someone's engaged with the Olympics heavily and they're sending stuff to their friends every day, like if someone gets sent a sports ball video 3 times in 1 week, it's like a much better indicator than twice in 4 months. And like they're going to start to have a little more like recognition or brand affinity, I would say. And that's not proven out, but that's just how it's just like if I were consuming content and I saw something interesting and then I saw another thing that was interesting from the same person, same style, and I liked both of them, and then I saw a third, I'd be like more inclined to follow.
Do you think that when people pay you to do these, what are they using it for? Is it for social media or are they using it for something else?
It depends. A lot of times it is for social media, especially in sports. A lot of budget gets put towards tentpole moments. So an all-star game in the NHL or like tip-off in the NBA or, even Super Bowl, obviously. Brands and leagues and teams are putting a lot of money around activating around those events. And it's almost like a magnet for spend in a way.
What do you think is AI's role in the work that you do? Do you feel like this could just be AI doing it in the next year?
Yeah, I would never count AI out for being able to do anything at this point. Every time Claude puts out a new feature, it feels like it's world's ending for a lot of people. But I'm sure if someone cared enough to be like, hey, I want to recreate Sportsball and do this, and like the hand-drawn videos, they could easily make a video software. The short answer, yes. I definitely think there's people that can replicate it. And if technology comes and is able to replicate it, I'd love to onboard some technology like that. I probably wouldn't want to recreate the actual production process of drawing because I just like doing that. But no, I'm welcome to any ways to make things more efficient. I wake up at 5 and start work, and I go to bed at 10 after working for 16 hours. I'm definitely doing plenty. If there's ways to make that more efficient, I'm happy to do it. But the nice part is I'm not just sitting in front of a computer screen the whole time. Once a day or once every 2 days, I get to sit down and draw for 2.5 hours. And for me personally, that's borderline therapeutic. And so that keeps it really fun for me to keep doing in the future. So even if I could automate it, I probably won't to at least that level, because that's a great hobby at this point that I can exercise.
And I think that's actually probably part of what people like about it, is that it's hand drawn. I think if someone it replicates it with AI and it looks like someone's drawing, people are going to be able to tell that it's not. And I don't think people would like it as much.
I feel like this with a lot of, especially content these days, I like it more if there's a perceived level of effort that went into it. And I see a lot of AI generated videos, as we all do now, and some of them are very cool, obviously, but it almost feels bad that someone didn't have to work hard to generate it. I like seeing people work hard on stuff and the fruits of their labor being shown off. And that's the type of content I enjoy. There's one guy that's been building a house he's got like millions of followers now, but it's like every day I go and build my house with my hands, and like I've been framing it today, I'm painting it tomorrow. And, I like seeing that stuff. And I think a lot of people like manual things, especially these days. It kind of reminds them of how things were as a kid and sketching. And I don't know, it's a weird intersection of all that different stuff. I mean, I use tons of AI for like helping script. I script all myself, and then like grammatical stuff and like flowing things together is really helpful for sure. I do all like the chart descriptions and things off like from scratch, and then see if there's any ways I can like reformat the what I have and like moving modules around for the script to make it sound better on the ear. But yeah, all the production side is still very manual, which I think is a great asset currently.
Yeah, there's a lot of data viz designers, myself included, when we're trying to wrestle with the fact of, are we getting replaced with AI? And I find the secret sauce of, I think, from the video, the hand-drawn portion, but also you being able to find the nuance that is interesting to other humans. I think that is the part that is going to be hard to replicate for AI. I mean, it just is, because they don't really know. The robots don't know what is interesting to us and what is the relationship. Like, why do we care about Ilya right now? I live near him.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think AI would capture that, and like why this is physically interesting, physically amazing, that what this person can do, and the nuances of how that's scored, and the risk and reward that they are balancing when they're putting their programs together. Like all those little things that we as humans are interested in. I think that's hard for AI to replicate. So I don't think AI is coming for all portions of our jobs, but like you said, there are parts that really do speed it up.
I'm open to tools and things like that, but I don't think there's any replication for caring a lot about one thing and then doing whatever you can to make the best out of that, because that's what will pull my skill forward, your skill forward.
Yeah, focusing on the passion for the subject and the craft. Yeah. And then also focusing on what is going to connect people to a sport and also connect people together, because they're sharing this information with someone else about the sport. I feel like that sounds very forefront in everything that you do.
Yeah, and the only other thing I'll say on the type of physical content and why it works with sports so well, I think this is the case, and this is just a thesis. The reason people love sports, especially today, is because it's the highest achievement of physical capability. And none of that is achieved through computers or whatever. And having a type of content that is parallel to that in a way, where it's physically done, and it obviously has a level of effort associated with it, just like any athlete on TV. It has parallel path in a way.
Yeah, I didn't make that connection before, but that does make sense. I mean, it does probably feel like a marathon to you to have to be sitting there for 2.5 hours, like diligently drawing all these things out. And that is physically taxing. Thanks, Riley. That was so interesting and inspiring, truly. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
There were so many ideas from this conversation that I'm going to keep thinking about. One is to spend more time thinking about your audience before you ever build a chart. How much do they already know? What do they care about? Is there a way to connect your information to something that's already meaningful to them before diving into the details? That's exactly what Riley does, and it's why his work is so approachable. I also love his advice to test your story on someone who's unfamiliar with the topic. Ask them what they know and watch where their curiosity naturally takes them. Those questions can reveal the perfect path into your story and help you discover what nuances are actually worth explaining. Another reminder for me was that simple does not mean simplistic. Riley isn't trying to impress people with complexity. He often starts with familiar chart types and then thinks carefully about how they'll fit into the final experience. And interestingly, his hand-drawn style gives people permission to focus on the overall message instead of getting distracted by tiny details and debating the precision of every mark. And finally, I appreciated his perspective on AI. It's a fantastic partner for parts of the workflow, but it's still up to us to understand what another human will find interesting, surprising, or meaningful. And that ability to connect with your audience is still one of your greatest strengths as a data storyteller. Definitely check out Riley's work at Sportsball. Even if you're not a sports fan, I think you'll come away with fresh ideas for making your data stories way more engaging. And if you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show so you see our next episode, or share it with your friend who's trying to communicate data more effectively. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you in our public workshop on August 20th. And until next time, keep telling great stories with your data. Bye now.